I just dropped my son off to his Quran-based kindergarten/nursery. Alhamdulillah, this is one of the benefits of living in a Muslim country, especially a very conservative area like Sharjah. That there's so many amazing Quran schools and Quran nurseries. He's been going here for barely a month and he's already learned some surah Fatiha, and he's only 4 years old. Oh Barak. So he's learned Surah Fatiha, some of the surahs for the last 10 surahs. And he's loving it, and they don't have toys. I thought it was going to be like a nursery, like a kindergarten with toys and things, but they don't have toys. They just do stories and they do very active things, and it's not overpopulated either. So there's a small group of children, and you can tell that it's a very high net worth group, mashallah, from all the cars that drop off the kids in the morning. So this is one of the benefits, alhamdulillah, living in a beautiful Muslim country. You get access to these kinds of facilities that you don't get access to in the UK. Even I know that in certain areas of the UK, like Yorkshire and London and Birmingham, etc., there probably are a lot more facilities like this. But where I lived in Glasgow, dead man. There's nothing, especially in the suburbs where I used to live with the family. We had a beautiful masjid, but that's basically it. They have obviously Quran classes in the masjid as well. But the issue with a suburban area where the socioeconomic status is a little bit higher, unfortunately, I see this a lot, is that the parents do not value their Islamic education as much, especially when they're doctors, busy professionals. They don't put as much priority on Islamic education as memorization of the Quran, as ilm, etc. for their children. And it's really, really upsetting. Now, I taught in the Hifz class in that masjid for quite a while. It was a small class. There was about 8, maximum 10 children, ranging from around 14 to 17 years old. And what I found was that 90% of them, they either had too many distractions at school and extracurricular activities and homework and friends, etc., and YouTube and social media, etc., that parents are giving them access to far too early, which was so heartbreaking to see. So when they've got all these distractions, they don't have, first of all, the dopamine to prioritize their Quran, because they're getting dopamines from so many different areas. They're just fried. And they're 14, 15, 16 years old. The receptors are already fried from all of these things that they're getting access to, right? And then, so when they come to the Quran class and they're told to focus on just reading the Quran or just memorizing the Quran for an hour, they struggle with it. I don't even blame them, because when you've got access to all these horrible social medias at that age, it's so damaging. I'm not even surprised, and I don't even blame the children, right? Half the time, these children would not even be able to memorize or recite basic lessons, right? I'd give them basic, easy lessons for the next day or the next week or whatever, and they would never be able to, hardly ever were they able to fulfill their homework, right? And then there was one boy out of all of these children who showed true promise, who showed true potential. And he was the youngest, actually. Allahumma barik. His tajweed was the best, his recitation was the best, his pronunciation was the best. He consistently was able to recite his lessons the best, and he was the most consistent. And I felt like, okay, this is one boy in this entire class that has potential. So I met his father after class and I said, you know what, listen, I'm a dentist. I did everything that I had to do. From an Islamic perspective, I memorized the Quran, alhamdulillah, while I was in high school, and finished off it while I was at university. I became a dentist, right? I did exactly the same as you. I think his father was a doctor, and said, I did the exact same as you. And obviously, I understand that you want your son to also be a doctor, professional, high grossing employee, etc., right? And if you can put a priority on your son's Quran, I'm telling you, he will be able to achieve all of those things. And counterintuitively, it won't be with more difficulty, it will be with more ease. Because what the Quran does, especially when you're memorizing it, it opens your mind. It strengthens your memorization pathways. And it makes memorization so easy for you. So memorizing things was not difficult for me at university. What was difficult for me, was problem solving, applying the knowledge that you memorized. And had that conversation, and I felt that it went well. I felt like his father digested it. And then a few months later, I think from what I heard, he pulled his son out of, his son had some exams, and these weren't high level exams, probably like GCSEs or something. And he pulled his son out of Quran class, his Hifz class, for like a few months or something. This is a mindset, a backwards mindset that you can't teach, you can't fix at that level when it's that deeply ingrained into the parents, into that generation, that they don't understand and they don't put a value on the Quran and Islamic knowledge, they will actually produce better in every aspect of life. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one that gave us everything, the ability, the intelligence to work in school and get good grades and focus and study, etc. How can you possibly think that if you put a priority on your children's Islamic education and the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to give them everything else in life? It's really, really upsetting for me to see, because I was one of the few people that put my hard work where my mouth was. Obviously through the help of my parents, I worked extremely hard, and alhamdulillah I was able to finish my memorization of the Quran, and I was able to graduate as a dentist, as a doctor, finish through dental school, and still achieve many, many other things, alhamdulillah. It's not stopped me, it's not prevented me from anything in life. So this is one of the backwards mindsets that we have to deal with in the West, right? Especially from immigrant generations. Again, it's something deeply ingrained. I don't know how we're going to be. Hopefully the new generations are a little bit more switched on. They've got access to a lot of resources on the internet with regards to parenting, and they've got a better understanding. I definitely feel I have a more holistic understanding. I'm not saying I'm a better parent than my parents, but I'm saying I think I have access to a lot more resources and holistic resources to parenting and understanding the psychology of children, etc., because of the internet that our parents didn't have. So it wasn't their fault, but we just have so many more resources now, and it's up to you to decide to utilize those resources, or you can just spend all your time just doom scrolling on TikTok all day, wasting time while your children are begging for your attention. So that was one of the major differences here. Subhanallah, you can tell very clearly because there are so many Islamic resources. We literally went to an Islamic civilization museum in Sharjah last week. Beautiful. They put so much love and attention to Islamic history, and we were able to show our children old masajids, the old Masjid al-Aqsa, and teach them about the history and Islamic developments and Islamic inventions that produced and gave so much to the world. I love history and I love science, so we were looking at the navigation instruments. I've forgotten what, astrolabes. That's so cool how they work, etc. And they never teach you that majority of these instruments, including surgical instruments, because there was also dental tools there, old dental tools and medical surgical tools that were created by Islamic civilization. They don't tell you these things in school, that they were created by Muslims. They don't care, obviously. So subhanAllah, it's beautiful being able to take your children and expose them to all of the things that you were never exposed to in Islamic history. And then obviously the Islamic schools. You've got the Islamic nurseries. SubhanAllah, so good. They held a pantomime show with little hand puppets for the kids a couple of weeks ago. And they filmed it and they sent it to all the parents in the group chat. So you can see what your children are getting up to and what they're learning. SubhanAllah, obviously, because I've memorized the Quran, I have really high priority for my children to also memorize the Quran. But I've been very easy and gentle with them so far and not pushing them too hard. Not pushing them too hard. Oh, I hope the mic picked that up. But yeah, again, subhanAllah, this is another thing. With the access to the internet, you have access to some amazing ulama that have very balanced and beautiful understandings of parenthood and tarbiyah, right? And they don't push you to be aggressive with your children and force them into anything. It's nothing about forcing. I've said this so many times. My son begs me, he's 4 years old, he begs me to take him to the masjid, and he will cry sometimes if I don't take him. And he doesn't ask to go every day, but when he asks me to take him, I will take him. And I take him almost essentially every single week to Jummah. And I never tell him, okay, let's go to masjid. He asks me, when is the next Jummah? Because he doesn't know the days of the week yet. And I've never forced him. But when the children see you do things, they will naturally want to copy. They will naturally want to do what you're doing. So yeah, I've never forced him, I never pushed him to, memorize Surah Fatiha and Surah Nas, etc. But he came back from his Quran-based nursery, a few days ago, and he was just reciting it to his mum. And then his mum told him to recite to me. subhanallah, that feeling like I didn't even force to feed him it. He just learnt it by himself, and he learnt it so beautifully because the teachers are all Arabic. They recite with good tajweed. They recite with the correct pronunciation. Subhanallah. So many benefits to a Muslim country. I don't know how you feel.
Inshallah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's the same, bro. SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
How much does it cost?
Costs about 850 dirhams, which is about 160, 170 pounds a month.
Allah, my bad.
And compared to like full-time school prices, right, which are £10,000. Sorry,
Yeah,
£10,000 a year, right,
Yeah.
for a full-time school. And obviously, we're looking to homeschool. That's what we want to do.
Some international schools are pushing £20,000 in the UAE, man.
That's crazy, isn't it? Like, subhanAllah, so he gets access to all these amazing resources and teachers who are fully Arabic, and all the other children, that I think half of them are Emirati and half of them are the children of expats just like me from different Muslim countries. Like, I think one of his friends is from Uzbekistan. Subhanallah. Beautiful.
Inshallah.
Access to all these other amazing cultures, and he's made some lovely little friends who are going to be a good influence on him. Allahumma barik.
Allah barik. Is this 5 days a week?
It's 4 days a week,
4 days.
Monday to Thursday. He has Friday,
my bad.
Saturday, Sunday off, which is good because I have to drop him at 8 a.m. in the morning. So yeah, I get a few days off. But alhamdulillah, the other thing is that so many people, including family, have approached me and they have said, "Oh, Maz, I want my kids to do hifz. How do I encourage them, etc." And obviously, first of all, is that if you're not reading Quran in front of them on a regular basis, they're not going to have that love for the Quran. And the second thing is there has to be sacrifice. You cannot achieve amazing things without sacrifice. Becoming a dentist, becoming a doctor took huge amounts of sacrifice. Even as early as your GCSEs, having to sit and study and work hard and develop a routine and get good grades, and then A-levels, get good grades, get into dental school, that was sacrifice. Struggle and strive through 5 years of dental school, medical school, that was sacrifice. Having to sacrifice your social life, not being able to go out with your friends, etc., that was sacrifice. And then you finally were able to achieve this life of being a high producing professional with an amazing, inshallah, amazing lifestyle and an amazing income. But that all came through sacrifice. So something as incredible and amazing as the Quran and memorizing the Quran is not going to come without sacrifice. So I'll ask these people that come up to me and they'll say, "Okay, what are you doing currently?" And they'll say, "Oh yeah, we've got a qari coming to our house twice a week for 1 hour." Like, are you joking? You're sending your children to school for 6 hours, 5 days a week, right? And then you've got a qari coming to your house for 1 hour, 2 times a week, and you expect your children to memorize the Quran. Please put things into perspective. If you want your children to memorize the Quran, there has to be sacrifice. And I'm not saying that your children need 6 hours a day, 5 days a week to memorize the Quran. Actually, they do, right? But they don't need that inside of a class. They need at least 2 hours, 5 days a week, if not 7 days a week. That's what they need minimum in a class. And then they also need 3 to 4 hours of memorizing and learning themselves outside of that class. That's what they need. If you want them to achieve that incredible goal of memorizing the Quran, that's what it's going to take. And there's no shortcut. Maybe if they spend a little bit less time, they can still memorize the Quran, and it's definitely possible, but it's just going to take longer, and then you're going to delay things. And as soon as they start getting into university, it's going to become very difficult. It took me 7 years to memorize the Quran. I started when I was 14, and I finished maybe 20 juz by the time I got to university. And alhamdulillah, I managed to finish while I was at university. I finished in second year of university, but it wasn't easy. Imagine they've got all these responsibilities, the workload of university. It was extremely difficult. It wasn't easy in any way. But alhamdulillah, I managed to finish. So start your children on the Quran as early as possible. Teach them how to read the Qaida and the Quran as soon as possible with good tajweed, and then get them started on memorization as soon as possible. Inshallah, you can get them finished, and especially in places like in Bolton, Blackburn, Yorkshire, Bradford, Birmingham, London. There's so many amazing Allahumma barik madrasas and masjids where they produce hundreds of hurfaz every single year. And if you send your children to a good class, they can easily memorize the Quran by the time they're 12 years old. Start 8, 9 years old and finish by the time they're 12. It's very, very doable. But one of the major benefits of living in a Muslim country is that it's so easy to access all of these amazing resources. I still have like 3 other options. There's another school that's actually a full-on Hifz school. They take children from 4 years old, right? It's actually cheaper. It's cheaper than the school that I send my children to. And they take children from 4 years old. Again, they're not aggressive, they're not pushing or anything. One of my good friends takes his daughter, who's 4 years old. She goes 5 days a week, I think, with their mum. And the son who's 6 years old and the daughter who's 4, they all go together to this school 5 days a week. And they let the 4-year-old girl, the 4-year-old children, they let them run around and have fun and play. And then they make them sit down a little bit and they go through the Pauda and the Arabic alphabet, etc. And slowly, when they develop that love for the Quran, when they're not forced, when they see you doing it, they are going to want to do it. If they never see you opening the Quran, how can you expect them to love it? When they see you on your phone 5-6 hours a day, scrolling through TikTok, and you expect them not to have a love for TikTok or scrolling and fry their dopamine receptors by the time they're 12, 13 years old. Do you understand? You need to put a priority on the things that are going to benefit them in this life and the next, inshallah.